official newspapers on December 18, 2017, and notice that this meeting was posted in the complex on the same date.
It's hard to hear us.
We can't hear you.
Speak up, please. Get here. Ms. Castro? Here. Mr. Gray?
Here.
Mr. Lizzo?
Here.
Ms. Young?
Present.
Mr. Ross?
Here.
Mr. Fowler?
Here.
Good evening and welcome to the special May 23rd, 2018 Board of Adjustments meeting. Will you please join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have two applications on the board tonight. The first is Edelman Investment Group, LLC, at 112 to 114 12th Avenue. Mr. Kennedy, do you want to
Sure.
start with this
Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am the zoning board attorney, and we have somewhat of a procedural issue. As you'll recall, or as you just indicated, there's actually two applications on tonight: the Edelman Investment Group application and the 109 12th Avenue Inc. Belmar A and Belmar B 10712 Realty LLC applications on both for tonight. Both of those applications require use or D variance relief, and we're going to hear about them, those standards more as the application unfolds. But for purposes of this discussion, that standard, that use D variance standard, brings in two important issues. One is an enhanced legal standard that the applicant has to satisfy in order to lawfully gain approval. And B, one of the enhanced standards associated with this use or D variance approval is that by law, in order for this application, both applications to be approved, the applicant needs 5 affirmative yes votes. So unlike most other situations where 4 to 3 would win, or 5 to 2, or something like that, majority does not win in this situation. With a use or D variance application, an applicant needs 5 affirmative yes votes. And by law, a use variance applicant is entitled to have 7 members. And the math works out. Usually, when the applicant notices for the meeting, they recognize that they need 5 affirmative yes votes, and they want a 7-member quorum. So given that this is the week right before holiday weekend, we were down some people, and then unexpectedly today, another board member had an issue arise which prevents his appearance. So as of late this afternoon, we found out that there's a bit of a quorum issue. While we have a quorum to act and a quorum to convene this meeting, we only have 6 voting board members tonight. And as indicated, the applicant is entitled to have 7 board members. Most applicants, most attorneys for the applicants do not want to proceed and will not proceed if they have less than 7 board members. And if you'll recall, at last month's application, we ran into this same situation, and we carried. So that is the situation that we have tonight. I've spoken with Mr. Shipers, the applicant's attorney, and under this circumstance, even though they noticed for this special meeting and paid the fees for the special meeting, they are requesting to have this meeting carried because of this 7-member issue. I know that's probably going to be troubling and upsetting for many of the members of the public who came out tonight, but I do have to say that this is a standard request from the applicant, and it really, respectfully, is not the applicant's issue. So it is my understanding that against this backdrop, the applicant is going to ask to be carried to a new date for both hearings. So that's number one. Number two, if that is what's going to happen.
Could I be heard on that before
Sure.
we have the number 2? Mr. Lisco, Chairman, Vice
Give her a
Chair.
microphone so we can really hear him.
Seems to be sworn in.
Sure.
Yeah, we can't hear a word he's
We don't have an amplified microphone system. system, so everyone just needs to speak loudly.
All right, I'm going to turn around, and I have a pretty big mouth, so I'll make sure you all hear me. For people who don't know me, my name's Bill Shipers. Pleasure to meet you all. So here's what I want to say to the board. I need 5 affirmative votes for both of my projects. As many people here, probably I suspect, who support my application, there's as many who don't. Well, we'll talk about that for a minute. All right, whatever. We'll get there. My floor right now. You'll have your chance. I have the right to have 7. And if this ever turns into litigation, you may want to have a 7-0 vote against me. And I may want a 7-0 vote in favor of me. It's all of our rights. Everybody understand? Not my doing. We paid for a special session, extra funds to be here. That's our right. I'm not blaming the board. Silly me, best laid plans. Try to do this before Memorial Day weekend in Belmar. Where's my head? Right? Things happen. We only have 6. So we're going to go again. We're going to tee it up when we have 7. Fair for your side, fair for my side. It's not on me you're coming back. I'm not blaming the town. Nobody grumbles. Everyone's adults. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just continuing with this, what we would do typically is announce a new meeting date for both of these applications so that the applicant would not have to renotice and send certified letters. So before we do that, what I would ask, if there's anyone here who has any legal questions regarding the sufficiency of the notice, not comments regarding I like the application or I don't like the application, just with regard to the notice, the notice that they received from Mr. Shipers' office. Does anyone have any such questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Want to come up to the mic?
Come forward to the microphone, please.
Hi, my name is Jim Agnello. I own 115 and 117 11th Avenue. I believe if my estimates are accurate, I am 50 feet from the property in question, or one of them, and I received notice for neither of my properties.
Okay, thank you.
If there's another objector to the notice, please come forward and state your name.
Arlene Natal, I own 1100 A Street. I did not receive notice either.
Just come on up to the microphone is not for amplification purposes, but everything is being recorded. So that's why I want you speaking to the mic.
I'd like to know how the announcement would be made for the new hearing.
What's your name?
And my name is Beth Monet. I'm at 308 12th Avenue. And I'd like to know how the new announcement would be.
If the meeting is carried, this would be the notice. And we would tell everyone right now what the new hearing date is. And we would ask that if you know people who could not come here tonight, to tell your friend. But did you have any questions regarding the notice you received?
No, I had no questions about that, but I am concerned about the future notice, and I do believe it should be in writing and certified, even though it may cause additional costs to the applicant.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, any other members here, the public here, who had questions regarding the notice? Okay. So what we're going to do is, what I would suggest is we will look, and we don't have to do this right now, we will look to see if Ms. Napel and Mr. Agnello were on the notice list. The law in this regard is a little bit funky. If you're not on the list that the town gives you, they don't have to give you notice. I assume that Mr. Shipers here is probably going to, out of an abundance of caution, renotice these two individuals anyway. But based upon that, we reviewed the notice, my office and the board secretary, and found everything to be in order in terms of having having the board to have jurisdiction. So what I would suggest, and we will, Mr. Shipers will look into those two notice issues with regard to those two individuals. But what I would suggest is that we carry this to a new meeting date, and we'll do it twice. And we will, for each application, once for each application, and we will carry this. And with regard to Ms. Main, I understand your concern, but the law doesn't allow us to require public noticing under these circumstances. So I think we're going to have to just leave it unless something happens. So April, as board secretary, do you have a meeting date that when this application can be adjourned to?
Yes, June 28th.
So that's June 28th, 2018 at 7 o'clock p.m. So it's, again, June 28th, 2018 at 7 o'clock p.m. And what we'll do is, Mr. Chairman, let's do the Edelman Investment Group application first. 112-114 12th Avenue. May I have a motion to carry that meeting to June 28, 2018, 7 o'clock p.m. without the need for any further public notice?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay.
What day is June 28th? Thursday.
Isn't that before July 4th?
Yes.
Everybody the same vote? Come on, learn!
And before we take the vote on this, what we want to do is one other important procedural thing. Ladies and gentlemen, anytime an application is submitted, whether it's a little application, medium-sized application, or large application, New Jersey law has a provision that says it has to be adjudicated within a certain time frame or any agreed-upon extension. And if it's not adjudicated on, we, as a town, as a board, risk that there could be a possible automatic approval of the application. So what we do, which is very, very standard, is to ask the applicant to consent to extend the time frame. So Mr. Shipers, do you, on behalf of your client, consent to extend the time frame within which the board has to act on the application?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So, and I think, Mr. Chairman, we can just do an all, you don't have to do
All
all.
in favor of the carrying the application?
Any opposed? Okay, so
Can I
that
ask another question
application,
on the legality of the notifications? I didn't get to.
Kevin, there's a guy in the back.
My name is Juan Gonzalez. I live at 208.5 14th Avenue. Based on the law, when is the perimeter associated with the notifications increased beyond 200 feet? Does the scale of the project change that at all?
excellent question, but it does not. It is 200 feet of the property and in the town's official newspaper. So that's...
So whether you're building a high-rise or whether you're asking for a variance on a single home, the distance is always 200 feet?
The way the law is correct, yes.
Is that a local, state law?
State law, New Jersey state statute. And even if the town wanted to change it, it couldn't, it comes from the state. So that's why it's important that you tell your friends and these, so yeah.
Okay.
Excellent question.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is the 109 12th Avenue Inc. and Belmar A and Belmar B 10712 Realty LLC application, 105, 107, and 109 12th Avenue. Obviously Belmar, New Jersey. Again, we have the same situation, so there is going to be a request, same date?
Yes.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is presumably going to be a motion to carry that second application to June 28, 2018 as well, 7 o'clock p.m., again with no further noticing. So I'll reverse myself this time before we bring it to the board. Mr. Shipers, do you, on behalf of your clients, consent to extend the time frame within which the board has to act?
Before we get there, Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Lisco, with your permission, Mr. Kennedy, I'm not sure, in my mind, without pulling my 200-foot list, without pulling my list and addressing Mr. Agnello, I think I know where Ms. Neppel's property is, whether the two prior no notices were on the Belmar Inn or the Falcone properties. Could you just make sure there's no other notice issues claimed on the Falcone.
Sure.
property.
Excellent question. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we asked earlier about legal notices, and we had the 4 comments. Were there anyone else who had any specific comments or questions regarding the sufficiency of the notice they received with regard to the 105, 107, and 109 12th Avenue application?
I would like to also,
Mike?
I
And
would
just
like,
state your name for the record.
my name is Beth Monet, and I'd like to extend my objection that I made for the other property to this one, that I do think that written notice should be sent to everyone. If possible, I would love to see a motion made, people here could vote on it, if that's possible.
Okay, your comments are so noted. Respectfully, Mr. Chairman, it's an issue of New Jersey law, so I don't, with respect to the speaker, I don't think it would be appropriate for a board, or a public vote on the re-notification. Sometimes, if an application goes on and on and on and on, we as a board say, hey, renotice because it's becoming sort of stale. Under these circumstances, I respectfully, and I understand Ms. Monet's concerns, but I would respectfully submit that I don't think it's legally warranted under these circumstances, but I defer to you all as board members.
Well, we appreciate your response, but I think we'll follow your advice, Ken.
Okay, so were there any other comments regarding the sufficiency of the notice? Okay, so again, the board secretary and I reviewed the notice and found everything to be in order, and I would therefore find that we have jurisdiction to act, and I'm sure Mr. Shipers is going to, again, look at those the 2 individuals who did not receive notice. So with that, Mr. Shipers, do you, on behalf of your client, consent to extend the time frame within which the board has to act?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, if it's acceptable to the board, may I have a motion to carry the 109 12th Avenue Inc., Belmar A and B, Belmar B, 10712 Realty LLC application to June 28, 2018, 7 o'clock p.m. without the need for any further public notice?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. So I think, Mr. Shipers, you wanted to make one other comment?
My other comment, Mr. Chairman, I have my architect, I have my engineer here this evening. They're paid to be here by the corporations involved. You all have taken your good time to come out here this evening. Candidly, I don't want to waste your time necessarily this evening. My proposal would be this. I know when I come to these meetings, I'll give you a short, little tiny story. 15 years ago, I had a state police escort into New Egypt when I represented a very controversial client that they didn't want something in the town. My client was threatened with death. So they said, we better escort his attorney in with 4 state troop cars. We had the hearing. They escorted me out of town with 4 state troop cars. So I understand emotions. I'm willing to stay for an hour's time or so because I've paid for my architect and engineer to be here also. I'm willing. I know my supporters who are here. I know their positions. They know the project. I know there's a lot of people here who have concerns and might have questions. I don't want to get into any arguments or heated discussions, but I'm more than willing to have a civil discussion and hear concerns and hear what ifs. Or would you consider, or would your other client consider? And if you want to spend an hour with us, we'll be here. But if it gets out of hand, or if anyone can't keep their composure and talk like adults, we're going to pack up and we're going to go. But I think if we could act civilly, maybe we could do something. Okay, so we're going to stay for a little bit after it adjourns.
Mr. Chairman, and may I make one comment on that, and this is an important comment, and it's an important comment for the public as well, and I apologize for having my back to you all, including my good friend here. So, what is going to happen is, I feel bad for the applicants because they paid money to have their whole team, I feel concerned and bad for the members of the public who had to get babysitters and rushed home from work and all those.
And can I just make a comment, Kevin? It wasn't because it was poor planning. Somebody on the board had an emergency.
Yes, I'm sorry, thank
So
you.
I think we should.
And I didn't want to go into personal details, but
Right.
yes, it was an unexpected, unforeseen emergency, and that's the only reason that situation is unfolding. So, I think it's a very nice idea that the applicants, they're here, their team is here, they have their architectural renderings, and if you want to discuss, because you could probably not fit everyone in a regular office. However, very important protocol that has to be observed and must be observed. Number one, I would respectfully, and say respectfully 12 times, request that, and pretty much insist that board members not stay for any portion of that discussion. As a matter of law, when you all vote on this application, you have to vote to approve it or vote to deny it based upon the testimony and information that is presented during the public hearing process and your life experiences as members of the Belmar community. You cannot rely on anything that would be heard in this unofficial setting. So it would be entirely inappropriate for you all, so I would please ask that you all leave. And the other situation, very important, whatever conversations you have with Mr. Shipers and his team, whether they're good, they're bad, or indifferent, you have to realize that that is not a public comment in terms of the meeting. So if you tell Mr. Shipers you love the application, or you tell Mr. Shipers you are vehemently opposed to the application, you still need to do that, if you want, at the regular public hearing on June 28, 2018. The meetings that you and the discussions that you have right now are going to be informal discussions that the board members will not hear, and they're not going to comment on, and it will not be part of the public record. So if you say something tonight in the unofficial consultation with the applicant's representatives, please, please, please be sure to come back June 28, 2018 to say the same thing.
I have a question. Aren't there supposed to be alternate board members?
There are alternate board members, but we're still short, so that's the...
There's two members that couldn't come.
Yeah, well, some were unexpected, knew we weren't going to have, but we thought we were going to have 7, but then we had an unexpected emergency with the final board member. So it's unfortunate, but it happens. So, Mr. Chairman, that having been said, I think if you're all, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Sure. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that
Before
one.
you adjourn,
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I say something?
Yeah, before they ask a question. Should we ask a question before
They
they
want to ask another question to the members of the board.
before they leave?
No, I mean, we can't have, but which question?
Well,
You just want to address the detail?
Trina, you want this off?
yeah.
She's going to check that out.